Remember when Halloween bags held popcorn balls, caramel apples, and even homemade fudge? Back then, neighbors handed out sweets wrapped in wax paper instead of factory wrappers. That was Southern Halloween, stitched together with sugar, thrift, and a whole lot of Mama's love. So why do those scratch-made Halloween treats feel like they vanished from the porch light forever? What are we losing when we trade homemade candy for mass-produced plastic? Join us as we count down 10 iconic, forgotten treats that were once the gold standard of your trick-or-treat haul. If you miss the smell of molasses and cinnamon instead of plastic wrappers, then hit that subscribe button now. Molasses Popcorn Balls. Nothing said Halloween like Mama standing at the stove, stirring molasses and sugar until it bubbled into a sticky, dark syrup. The sweet, smoky smell drifted through the house, clinging to curtains. Once the syrup hit the right stage, she poured it over a mountain of popcorn, the kernels crackling as if they were alive. Buttered hands were the only defense, and Mama worked fast, shaping the hot mixture into glossy, amber-colored balls. Kids knew better than to touch them too soon, or you'd burn your fingertips. Each ball went into wax paper or a brown lunch sack, tied with string if Mama was feeling fancy. They were heavy enough to weigh down a candy sack and sticky enough to glue your lips together, but on the schoolyard the next day, popcorn balls were prime trading goods, worth 2 cookies, a comic book, or even a prized pack of baseball cards. Did your mama use molasses or switch to the quicker Caro syrup? Which one made the better, stickier popcorn ball? Share your tradition below. Caramel apples on sticks. If there was ever a showstopper on Halloween night, it was a shiny caramel apple, dripping with sticky sweetness. Mama didn't buy those little cellophane-wrapped kits at the grocery store. She made her own caramel the old-fashioned way, melting sugar, butter, and corn syrup until it turned golden and thick. The whole kitchen smelled like a candy shop. When the syrup was ready, she dunked tart orchard apples one by one, spearing them with popsicle sticks or even twigs from the yard. Some got rolled in crushed peanuts, others in shredded coconut. The glossy coating cracked when you bit in, leaving caramel stuck to your cheeks and everyone's faces smeared with sugar and laughter. Caramel apples were a sticky badge of Southern Halloween pride. And sometimes they didn't even make it past the sidewalk before the first bite. Homemade fudge squares. Fudge was the kind of candy that made kids hover around the kitchen, noses pressed against the counter while Mama stirred sugar, butter, and cocoa into a bubbling mass. She had to watch it close, waiting for that precise moment when the mixture would set just right. Not grainy, not too soft, but melt in your mouth, perfect. Once poured into a buttered pan and cooled, she'd slice it into neat little squares. Each one was a solid block of Halloween happiness. Some mamas made peanut butter fudge, others swore by chocolate, and the bold ones added marshmallows or walnuts. Trick-or-treaters got them wrapped in wax paper twists, each piece heavy in the hand and worth its weight in sugar. On the playground the next day, a square of fudge was good as gold. Pralines for Southern mamas. For Southern mamas, pralines were a part of their own childhood memories, and Halloween gave them an excuse to stir up a batch. The whole process was half science experiment, half art. Mama would mix brown sugar, cream, and pecans in her heaviest pot, stirring until it bubbled into a molten swirl. You had to know just when to pull it off the heat, or you'd end up with a pan of cement. Spoonfuls were dropped onto buttered wax paper, cooling into little discs that were soft in the center but crumbly around the edges. Every bite was a contrast. the melt of sugar giving way to the crunch of roasted pecans. Wrapped up and handed to wide-eyed kids at the door, pralines were a luxury. They were proof that Southern generosity made its way into every holiday. Homemade divinity. Nothing tested a Southern mama's patience quite like divinity. But when she pulled it off, it was a masterpiece. Mama would beat egg whites until stiff, then slowly drizzle in hot sugar syrup, her arm aching from the hand mixer humming on the counter. The glossy mixture turned into airy clouds that she dropped by spoonfuls onto wax paper, each one soft, pillowy, and impossibly sweet. A pecan half pressed into the top gave it a little Southern signature. Divinity was temperamental. Make it on a humid day and you'd have a pan of sticky soup. But when it worked, it was the prettiest treat on the table. Light as air, melt in your mouth, and so sweet it made your teeth ache. Getting a piece in your Halloween bag was like finding a ghost. Cornflake peanut butter bars. In the South, nothing went to waste, and that included the last cup of cornflakes rattling around in the box. Mama would heat peanut butter, sugar, and corn syrup in a saucepan until it bubbled, then pour it over crushed flakes. They were pressed into pans, sliced into squares, and sometimes topped with a drizzle of melted chocolate. These bars held together just long enough to get sticky fingers all over your trick-or-treat bag. Mamas loved that they could make a whole pan for pennies. Finding one in your bag felt like getting a homemade candy bar with Southern practicality baked right in. Peanut or pecan brittle. No candy announced itself with more authority than brittle. You could hear it crack from across the room when Mama broke the cooled sheet into shards. She'd simmer sugar, corn syrup, and butter, then stir in a fistful of roasted peanuts or pecans. The hot mixture was poured onto a buttered pan, spreading thin into a shiny amber sheet. Once cooled, it shattered into jagged pieces that cut the roof of your mouth if you weren't careful. Kids loved crunching it between their teeth, even though it threatened to loosen the filling. The brittle gleamed like stained glass in the porch light, the kind of treat you savored slowly, piece by sharp, sweet piece. Did you ever chip a tooth on brittle or cinnamon apples? Tell us your worst candy injury in the comments. Pumpkin bread wrapped in foil. Every so often, a mama would go the extra mile and bake loaves of pumpkin bread, heavy with cinnamon, nutmeg, and clove. She'd slice thick squares, wrap them in wax paper or aluminum foil, and hand them out like little parcels of autumn. The bread was moist, spiced, and sometimes studded with raisins or walnuts. Trick-or-treat bags sagged a little heavier, with those slices tucked inside. The smell alone was enough to stop you in your tracks. Warm pumpkin mingling with fall spices in a way no store-bought snack could touch. Sharing pumpkin bread felt like sharing part of the harvest. Was a square of homemade pumpkin bread considered a fair trade for a chocolate bar on the playground? Buttered popcorn in brown bags. Not every Southern Halloween was built on pure sugar. Sometimes mamas handed out plain old buttered popcorn, poured hot from the skillet, into little brown paper bags. The butter soaked through before you even made it home, leaving greasy fingerprints on your costume. It was simple, salty and cheap. But after a night of sweets, something warm and savory hit the spot. At school the next day, kids would compare bags, some with just a sprinkle of salt. The crinkle of a butter-stained paper sack became one of those small Southern sounds that told you Halloween had truly arrived. Toasted pumpkin seeds. While jack-o'-lanterns were being carved, another Southern Halloween tradition took shape on the stove. Toasted pumpkin seeds. Mama would scoop them straight from the pumpkin guts, Rinse off the stringy pulp and spread them on a pan with salt and a drizzle of oil. The oven turned them golden and crunchy, filling the kitchen with a nutty, earthy smell. Kids popped them like peanuts, shells and all, until their lips burned with salt. They weren't candy, but they tied Halloween straight to the harvest. They were the savory bite that made everything else taste even sweeter. Halloween today might sparkle with neon wrappers and plastic pumpkins, but back then, it was stitched together with wax paper, brown bags, and a whole lot of Mama's love. Every popcorn ball, praline, or spiced cake square carried the taste of southern kitchens that somehow made magic out of what they had. So maybe the caramel stuck in your teeth, or the taffy glued your jaw shut, but the memory sweetened over the years. And that's why these old-fashioned Halloween treats linger in our minds long after the candy's gone. Which of these 10 treats do you wish you could taste again? Drop your memories down in the comments. And if you're feeling extra nostalgic, go ahead and share this video with someone who remembers when Halloween smelled like molasses and cinnamon instead of plastic wrappers.